Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Grange Hill. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. Okay, welcome to the latest episode of Sausage on a Fork. It's been a few weeks since we've had an episode, but we are back, and I am absolutely delighted to say that I have been joined for this episode by none other than Linda Magistris OBE, who played Susi McMahon. Linda, welcome to Sausage on a Fork.
Thanks very much, Neil. It's really lovely to be here.
Brilliant. Well, let's be honest, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? I think we've been in touch for about 2 or 3 years. So I'm really, really pleased that you've finally been able to come on and share your time with us. So thanks so much for that. So what we'll do, Linda, I nearly called you Susie then. What we'll do, Linda, is we'll start this episode the way we start every episode. And if you could tell us how you first got into acting.
Right. Well, I was dancing from a very early age. So my sister started dancing first, and I thought I wanted to do the same. So I went off to a local dance school from, I don't know, about probably 2 or 3, with tiny tots, just, jumping around. And then I started doing all the classes properly and all the examinations, etc. And then it was literally just through a friend of my mum who said, look, there are these sort of drama classes if Linda wants to join drama classes. So I thought, okay. So I started these evening classes just locally in a village hall. And then it came to me leaving school, primary school, and going into secondary. And this person said to my mum, look, have you ever thought about a stage school for Linda? Right. And I had no idea what that was. I didn't even know what a stage school was. So she said, look, there's all these other stage schools. There's Italia Conti, there's Sylvia Young, there's Corona, all these other ones. Wow. So that's it, really. That's where it sort of all opened up. I'd done things like, butlins.
All right.
All those competitions. I used to love it. Like, we go on holiday to Pontins or Butlins and, I'd be up there on the stage singing away and getting my costumes on. And so I always loved it. And I was always performing with the dance school. They put on these shows. Yeah. So it was in my blood from a very early age. But it was only when I was actually going to be leaving school that I looked at it seriously. And then Italia Conti in Clapham North, where it was originally, was like the chosen school, really, because to me and my mum and dad, because my mum and dad were really keen on me getting an education, in case, obviously, acting didn't work out, which it doesn't for many people. But yeah, Italia Conti had a brilliant reputation for academia. So yeah, that was the one I went for.
Brilliant. Who were you at school with? People we might know.
Yes, in my class, it was quite a good, it's a fantastic class for me because everyone was just so brilliant. So Bonnie Langford, Lena Zavaroni was in my year. We had Kenny Ball's daughter, famous trumpet player, wasn't he? People like that. So it was just a really exciting year, actually. Everyone was out working, and it was brilliant from day one. Me walking into that school was just fabulous.
Brilliant. So what sort of early work did you get?
Well, right from day one, really. So when I went in at 11 years old, nearly 12, I think I was, I auditioned for The Snow Queen.
Nice, yeah.
That was my first ever job. And it was this brilliant sort of combination between TV, animation. It was the first time they'd done something called color separation overlay, which is what Harry Potter is, obviously, and what everyone knows now as like blue screen, green screen, and things like that. So for me, it was just amazing job because I had the lead. I played Gerda, and it was just incredible because it was the first time I'd ever gone into a TV studio, down at the BBC. It's the first time I'd ever worked in a professional environment. And it was just absolutely brilliant because the story was fabulous because, the adventures that Gerda went on trying to find her brother and help him sort of from the clutches of the Snow Queen was just fabulous because there are all these really amazing actors in it. And half of it was animation. So it's really quite challenging
Yeah.
because I had like a crow, or I had like these fantasy horses and things that I had to talk to, but there was just nothing there. So in the studio, they'd line up a piece of wood or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'd have to do my lines to, a specific spot. And
Yeah.
it was brilliant. But I knew nothing else. So for me, it was like quite a natural thing to do in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a massive, massive new film for me,
Yeah,
for
because
sure.
I watched some of that the other day, and it is when I watched it, I thought there's nothing. There must have been nothing in the studio because
No,
virtually everything, props,
yeah,
sets, everything is hand drawn, isn't it?
yeah,
Almost everything there, yeah. And
yeah.
like you say, people like Gwen Taylor and Arthur Mullard and people like that were in it. But also, I noticed the lad who played your brother, Joshua, that was his name. His sister was really well known, wasn't she? His sister was Sylvester.
Yeah,
Sylvester Latuzel or Latausel, I'm not sure on the
that's it,
pronunciation.
Latuzel. Yeah, Joshua Latuzel played my
Yeah,
brother. Yeah, it was amazing. It was like a Disney film,
yeah,
that sort of real fantasy. It was just brilliantly done,
yeah.
and the animations were done by this incredible guy. I can't remember his name.
Uh-huh.
You probably know, but I've still got actual photographs in my scrap album of
Right.
all the animations. And I've obviously got all the cuttings. My mum kept all the
Yeah,
cuttings because it was like, the first time they'd ever done it. So it was in the papers, and I was in like the TV Times, and it was, or whatever that is,
brilliant.
the equivalent.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. And I loved every minute of it. Oh, and the costumes as well, because I've got a beautiful, two lovely sketches
uh-huh.
that I've kept. And he was a renowned costume designer who
Right.
designed my costumes, because they were all made of this silk, and because it was all period,
Uh-huh.
it was just stunning. Yeah, I loved every
Brilliant.
minute.
And then I noticed you were in Armchair Thriller, but it was like a 5-part story, Quiet as a Nun.
Nice the Nun with Mariah
And
Bacon, I think. Was that
yeah,
right?
and Patsy Kensit was in a few of
Yeah,
them, and
it was.
Katrina Hilton, who, by the way, was one of the Pink Windmill Kids. that's my thing there. Michelle Winstanley. When you're in like something, when you're a child, but you're in Armchair Thriller, are you,
Mm.
are you aware that it's a program made for adults? And was any of it scary when that like when you're filming stuff like that?
Oh, okay. No.
Right, okay,
In a
fair
word,
enough. Let's move
no.
on.
Yeah, no to both questions. I don't
Right,
think, yeah, because it was, when you're on set, everyone's just having a cup of tea and a cup of coffee,
yeah,
and having a chat. And then you go into the scene, and then you come out the scene. And, and as a kid, you want to do your best. And obviously, these were my first sort of adventures into the TV world, and I just wanted to make my mark, and I wanted to be professional, and I was a real do-gooder like Susie, actually.
right.
At school, I wanted to do my best. I wanted to be the best I could possibly be, so I'd know everyone else's lines and all that. But no, I mean, it was fabulous, because it was a 6-parter, and again, another fantastic cast, lovely locations. It was all exciting. Everything was just fabulous. But no, there wasn't any scary moments,
Right,
because
okay.
yeah, I mean, the set was great. And I remember we went on location, and we had like an old ruin or something, and we had to go up to the tower of the ruin and things. But you're in a tower with
Yeah.
100 people with a camera.
Yeah.
So no, it was fabulous fun. But yeah, I do remember Patsy Kensit as well. Yeah, we had a good laugh, and there was a few of my friends from Conti's who came and were extras on it, and
Right.
we all worked together and stuff. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good, fun.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll move on then onto Grange Hill. And obviously you played the character called Susi McMahon, and you weren't in the first series. You were in series 2 when you joined, but it was weird the first few series, because it was series 2, but the original class weren't second years; they were still first years. Where in subsequent series, every new series, it was a new school year. But for some reason, series 1, 2, 3, 4 didn't work like that. I don't know why that was, but that was the way it was. And Susie also wasn't introduced as a new pupil. Sometimes when we got pupils that hadn't been on the show before, they were introduced as new people, but she was clearly a pupil that was already at the school. And like we say, they were still first years. And Susie's, your very first scene, you were having an argument with Tucker Jenkins, was the very first.
Was I? Oh my
goodness. Over who should be using the swimming pool, because there was a big thing. Like it happened every so often on Grange Hill. There'd be arguments over the timetables, or something new would have happened, and the teachers and the kids really weren't sure what was going on. And so they were arguing over who should be using the swimming pool. But when the children were eventually asked by the teachers who had their gear to go swimming, not one of them did. So it was kind of like a redundant argument in the end. And certainly in that first series, almost all of your scenes were with Penny Lewis, played by Ruth. Yeah, Ruth Davis. So they were clearly best friends. But who would you say were your best friends on the show?
Yeah, I mean, like, Ruth was definitely, because obviously Ruth went to Conti's as well. Right. So, you know, we knew each other from Conti's, which was really brilliant. And then when Ruth and I started doing all the location stuff a bit further along, you know, we went on those outdoor adventures. Yeah. They were. We had just the best time. I just remember so many fantastic moments, particularly like, because we had a chaperone, and like, you know, that was the first time that I'd been away from home. You know, I'd never stayed in a hotel without my mum and dad. And I don't even think I'd probably even been abroad. I don't even remember going abroad. So, you know, it was just so exciting. And then we had like this incredible language. It was called Havagav.
All right, okay.
Made up this language that nobody else could understand.
Love that. Love that.
It was so brilliant. I think it was Ruth's idea. I don't think it was me, because I probably wouldn't know anything like that. I was like, oh, yes, okay. But we made up this thing, and we'd speak this language so that no one else could understand us. So we were like, it's called Havagav. So when you say Ivagai Wavgont, Sumvagam Thibaging, you put Havagav in between it, right? Yeah. So you go, Livigo, Mivagai Nevagay, Mivigiz, Livigin Diviga. And oh my God, I haven't spoken Havagav since I was like probably 12. And I remember it. Yay.
Never leaves you.
No, that's a real pro for you. But no, it was just, we had the best time. So Ruth and I had great fun, obviously, on all those trips out and everything. And then I got to know Michelle, obviously Trisha, a lot more, and Lindy Brill, who played Kathy. Yeah. So, you know, I think Michelle and Lindy then became really, really close. Yeah. So yeah, the three of us really, I think, were probably besties. And then Renee obviously came into the show later, who played Pamela, Renee Alperstein. And then we were really good friends. And again, Renee was from school anyway, so I knew Renee. Yeah. But yeah, Ruth and I had a real bond, because we created that lovely little friendship between Susie and Penny, and we went on all these different adventures together. So it was lovely.
Now, in that year, there was the production of Joseph, and Susie wasn't involved in the production. Would you have liked to have been involved in the production?
Definitely. Well, we did Joseph at Conti's. We did Joseph, and I was in Joseph at school. And I remember all those numbers that we used to sing. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I mean, that. I don't know, why was Susie not involved?
No, Susie and Penny were. I don't like using the term stagehands, but that's what they were. They were like moving the stuff around, and there was, you know, things with Jackie Heron trying to spoil everything, basically. And they did get their hands on the scenery, but obviously, you know, Penny and Susie, and Tucker were able to salvage some of the stuff, so it was all good. Now, you've just mentioned the residentials and things, and there was one particular one which it was a weekend residential to Beaconsfield, and it was, I think this is like sort of like your first probably major storyline on the program, because when they get there, they find out that, you know, they're given an itinerary, and they get given the rules from the warden and stuff. And it's the first time we sort of see a little bit of a sarcastic side to Susie, because she'd always come across as like, you know, the goody two shoes, as you said earlier on. Yeah. You know, she's like, oh, this weekend's going to be one non-stop ball of fun, isn't it? And Penny's like, well, there's got to be rules. And that's when Susie says, yeah, but I was looking forward to a weekend free of rules. And it maybe gives a little bit of an insight as to what her home life is a little bit like. you know, when she's saying things, I bet you that warden's first name's Adolf and stuff like that. And
Naughty Susie.
yeah, yeah. And Susie and Penny then had a bit of a chat about the weekend and what they'd be doing. And Penny was saying, you know, we're going to be looking at Roman ruins and doing a bit of an archaeological dig. And Susie just didn't seem interested at all, whereas Penny was really like looking forward to it. And Penny asked her why she was there, and she said, well, my mum said I had to. And again, it's just that little bit thing of the pressure from parents and mum being a bit overbearing and domineering. And then Susie and Penny went for a walk in a field and saw a horse. And obviously, the first thing they decided to do was get on the horse.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Like, so then we see this thing of Penny giving Susie a lift up and getting on the horse. Now, I'm going to ask this. Could you already ride a horse anyway?
No.
Right.
But like any good budding actor, you say you can do everything.
Yeah.
Right? So if the director and you're auditioning and they say, can you ride a horse? Can you ski down a slope? Of course, absolutely. And then you get the job and then you go and try and learn the skill.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Susie says, he looks like he's got a nice life. I wish I could eat grass all day. I don't know if you can remember what Penny's response to Susie was about this.
I certainly don't. Tell me.
She said, yeah, you do look a bit of an ass.
Did she?
Now, obviously, there's that big joke about there's no swearing in Grange Hill, but that's quite near to the mark.
Yeah, really, for back then.
Yeah. And as I say, Susie's sitting on the horse. She's not actually riding it. She's sitting on it, and the warden appears. So she gets off and they run off. And while they run into the woods where they weren't supposed to go, and Doyle and some of the lads were there, and they were making noises of wolves, to which Susie was like, I wonder if it is a wolf, to which Penny rightly points out that they were extinct in the UK, but they ran off again.
Oh, my goodness.
And we then find out, now this is where the big story, we then find out that an animal had escaped from a local wildlife centre. Can you remember what animal had escaped?
Oh, my goodness. Was it? Oh, it wasn't like a leopard or something, was it?
Close. It was a puma.
Oh, my goodness.
Puma had escaped. So there was obviously a full-scale search then. And, you know, it's getting dark and they're getting deeper into the forest. They fell into a swamp.
Did.
I'm assuming that fall was all one take. They didn't make you do that over and over again.
No, I think we would. Yeah, I remember. I think I've got some shots of the stills and things like, you know, where we were waiting for something to be set up. And I think, if I remember rightly, it wasn't done in the summer because it wasn't warm. Because we had you know, like the makeup girls or the costume would give us like coats and things. We're all just standing there huddled because going in that swamp, because I remember there was like a log or something across that we fell over or fell off of it or something.
Yeah.
And it was cold. Yeah. Nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I imagine it was. Yeah. And then Penny fell into a quarry and did her ankle as well. And Susie, you know, did her best to bandage her up. And eventually the puma was caught and the girls were found. But this is what I love about that whole story, that whole thing. Imagine this in this day and age. Mr. Mitchell decided not to report any of it. Because the children had obviously learned their lesson by now. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, imagine that now.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that is just absolute gem, isn't it? I mean, how ridiculous. But yeah, it was another time, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And I imagine a lot of that probably happened.
Yeah.
You know,
you can say anything. Everyone's fine. Don't worry about it.
We've got everyone, and you know,
having a nice time.
Sorted. And you know, I've mentioned Susie's, like, we had an insight into her family, but then we got to see Susie's home life as well. Now, whenever I talk to anyone who's been on Grange Hill and they talk about when they had scenes with a family in the home, they said it made the character feel a lot more real. Like, it helped to sort of flesh out the character. And we met Susie's mum and dad, played by Maggie Riley, and of course Bill Treacher. Arthur Fowler. But I believe he was only in sort of like one episode, maybe, or one or two. He wasn't in it as much as the mum was.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I remember that. And she used to wear a little pinny, I think, if I
Yeah.
remember rightly. And it was all very 1950s, you know.
Yeah.
It was all that. But they were just such lovely people. Well,
Yeah.
everyone was on Grange Hill. There was nobody that you didn't like, you know,
Yeah.
everyone, the actors and everything. But yeah, those lovely little scenes in the living room and maybe in the kitchen and things, I remember.
Yeah.
And then I think I had location scenes with Bill, my dad. I think he
Right.
came out and did a couple outside. But yeah, really lovely. As you say, it did. It just made you feel the character was more rounded then.
Yeah.
You knew the backstory.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, the mum was sort of quite overbearing, and
Yeah.
the dad was very much like, when you do your exams, as long as you do your best, that's okay. But the mum was like, well, if you don't do well in your exams, we'll have to see about sending you away to school, another school. And you just think, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Is that what she said? I don't remember that. Oh my goodness. No wonder
Yeah.
poor old Susie was going through a
And
rebelling sort of period.
yeah, because it was like she was really sort of panicking about her exams, and
Mm,
obviously it was more of it was coming from home, and
yeah.
and I'm sure that still goes on,
Yeah.
today. And we
Yeah.
see Susie attempting French in a French lesson. Were you any good at French?
Bonjour. We had a really good French teacher at Italia Conti.
Right.
We learned quite a lot. We used to say a lot about Madame Souris a un jardin, which is Mrs. Mouse has a garden. I remember that very well. Our French teacher was also our biology teacher. She was lovely.
Right.
But yeah, we learned quite a bit of Francais. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, it was good. Fun.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Because like Susie was worried that if she didn't pass her French exam, they wouldn't let you do Latin in the next year.
Tragic.
They were still have this thing of where some universities needed you to have done Latin to get in, which just,
Right.
again, in this day and age, it just seems bananas that would, even be a thing. And then
Yeah.
she said her parents would be furious if she didn't get into the top set. And like you say, she's just got this pressure coming,
Yeah.
from mum and dad, and
Yeah.
all the time. And
Yeah, she wants to be the best she possibly
yeah,
can for them, really, to make them proud. But as you say, then that has implications later on with the bullying and things, doesn't
yeah.
it?
And I think because Susie had this older brother, which I don't think we ever saw, but he was always like, they were always bigging him up, the mum and dad, and talking about how good he was and how clever he was, and in front of her, like they'd have a conversation about how good he was with either each other or another adult, and she'd be there thinking like, yeah, not me.
Yeah.
And there was scenes with Mr. Keaton. And now Robert Hartley, I love Mr. Keaton because I love his voice. I just arguably one of the best voices ever. I just love his voice. Like, but I mean, what we've talked about Maggie Riley and Bill Cheecher, but what in general, how did you find the relationship between the kids and the adults?
And the adults, yeah, I think. Well, some of them were. I mean, obviously they're all brilliant actors, but some of them were quite sort of new to the industry. But some were, have been in showbiz for a while. But yeah, I think we were all slightly away from the adults. I felt just slightly because we'd hang out as the kids and we do whatever, and they'd join in. But I think we always felt, I did anyway, slightly, that they were. A lot older, but they probably weren't a lot older really from us, because they were probably, I don't know, in early 20s or something. I should imagine some of them. But yeah, I mean, I just think like we had great fun with Brian Hopwood, for example. It's Mr. Hopwood, Brian Capron. And there were certain teachers that I think it's really like anything else. If you spend more time with them in scenes, then you get to know them personally, and you have more fun off set as well. So yeah, I think the ones that I remember are definitely Brian Capron, who I'm still in touch with, who's just fantastic, and obviously Mrs. McCluskey was brilliant. But I think it was just nice to sort of learn from them as well. I know I did, because I was always trying to
Brilliant. And there was a morning where Susie told her parents that she wasn't feeling well. Mum took her to the doctors, and the doctor was like, well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with her. And again, we get this thing of mum not having a very high opinion of what Susie can achieve academically. And in the end, mum took her to school without any of her books. And she just took her straight there because Susie wasn't expecting to go into school. She got detention, which was just unheard of for Susie, I imagine. Like, because Susie had wanted to copy homework, just not the actual answers, but the questions from Penny. And Penny had like snapped at her and said, she couldn't, which seems to happen a lot. Penny seemed to snap at Susie an awful lot. I don't know why she was friends with her, to tell you the truth.
I know. I think she thought she was slightly superior, didn't she?
Yeah.
I think she was. I mean, Ruth, in her stature was taller than me anyway, and I was always short and still am. Funny enough,
Yeah.
I haven't grown very much since Grange Hill, and I think she probably just thought that she'd be sort of dictating what would happen because Penny thought she knew it all as Susie.
No, on the day of the exams, Susie was genuinely sick. Now, that just seems strange. The day of the exams, like they just had one day set aside for all the exams and that was it. Yes. It was done. She was genuinely sick and there was a bit of a chat between the school and her mum, and she was able to be in the top set for English and French, but not for maths, was the outcome of it. Now, that series ended with a quiz against Brookdale, and Susie was in the quiz team.
Yes.
Now, Grange Hill ultimately lost the quiz by 1 point. Not through Susie, though, because Susie knew the answers. So that moves us nicely on to the next series. And they'd gone from first year to third year. Completely, we bypassed second year. And school uniform was now optional. But obviously, Susie wore a uniform because that was the way Susie was. And like I've just said earlier, I don't know why. I said didn't know why Susie and Penny were friends, because they seemed a bit toxic and she snapped quite a bit. But Susie called her on it, saying that when Penny had been talking to Trisha, she seemed a bit prissy, and she did it a lot, even to Susie. Now, good on Susie for standing up for herself. And there was a school trip to a local waste ground, the point of which was to explore the area and the environment. And they then asked Mr. Hopwood if they could go to the countryside as a proper trip, and they did. So off they went. But Susie was experiencing problems with something, an item of her wardrobe. Can you remember what it was?
It could have been my brassiere.
That's the one. Yeah. She'd started wearing a bra. And even though it was hot, she wouldn't take her blazer off in case people could see that she was wearing one. And Susie and Penny went off into the woods so that Penny could see if it was visible.
I remember.
And she said she couldn't, but Susie still felt uncomfortable with wearing it. So Penny told her to take it off. And she did, but she was seen by Alan and Andrew, who... Then they'd gone off for a smoke, and they were given away because they were burnt by this discarded cigarette. And the girl sort of like ran off then. But the discarded cigarette started a fire.
Oh, yes.
Everyone worked together to put the fire out. But like I said, Susie and Penny had run off into the woods and gone missing again. So the lads went looking for her, and they said that they wouldn't tell anyone what they'd seen with Susie, because they also said, if we do tell anyone, you can tell everyone it was us that started the fire. Right. A little bit of comradeship there. And a lot of that year, sort of, Penny and Susie were trying to get Doyle off the school magazine because Doyle had been elected as the school council rep, and that sort of put Penny's nose out of joint a little bit, like. And there was also the first sort of sparks between Susie and Alan. That sort of, it took a long time for that to come to fruition. I think Grange Hill did things like that really well, not necessarily just with relationships, but they would plant seeds early on to be for a big build up sort of later on. And when they were trying to get Doyle off the school council, Penny wrote an article for the school magazine, about how rubbish he was, basically. And it had to be withdrawn and get an apology put back in the magazine. And Doyle and his mates were teasing Penny about this. So Penny ran off. Susie never ran off, though. Well, she did, but not before she kicked Doyle in the leg beforehand. And Penny and Susie had heard rumours of Doyle accepting money to bring things up with the school council, as all good politicians do. And
allegedly,
Penny wasn't allowed to write an article for the magazine, but Mr. Hopwood pointed out that Susie could. So they were always trying to find something to rubbish him with. But Susie was like, well, we can't write that because we've got no evidence. She was always the voice of reason, I find, Susie there. Susie had, again, another chat with Mr. Hopwood, and it was because she always seemed to just be working on her own and not really getting involved with school activities. And Mr. Hopwood sort of said, you need to start doing something. But Susie was worried if she didn't do well in school, parents, again.
Yeah.
But she did.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember those things with Brian, actually.
Yeah.
And she was getting really stressed. And he was saying, come on, lighten up a bit. Yeah.
But she did go to a school club. Can you remember what it was?
Was it the singing one?
It wasn't a singing one. No. Much more physical. Much more physical than singing.
Oh, the judo.
Yeah.
That was the start of the judo. I love that. Oh, my goodness.
Were you given, sort of much training for the judo?
Yeah, we had the British champion. So the British judo champion. I can still do that move, Neil, so you better watch out. I literally practice it on whoever I could do it. So anyone out there, please beware. But Brilliant. It's just... I absolutely loved it. We had proper classes, George and I, and whoever else was doing judo in those scenes. But yeah, it was just brilliant because you can actually throw people over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what, age or whatever they are, you can do it if you get the knack. It was just incredible. Yeah, I loved it.
Brilliant. When Susie first went, she encountered Jill Harcourt for the first time, played by Alex Kingston. And obviously Jill battered Susie in that club, even though she was getting told to take it easy on it. She just wasn't, because she had this preconceived thing of Susie being a bit stuck up and, she shouldn't be there. And she battered her and told her that she had to do her own work for it. Yeah. And Jill, she made sure that she was doing her own work for her. And Susie did the homework, and Jill told her not to tell anyone, because that obviously happens. Because even though kids are getting a hard time at school, when they are getting bullied, they've still got that thing of, I can't tell anyone because they'll make it worse.
Of course. Yeah.
And Alan tried to help Susie by saying he'd have a word with Jill, but she was like, "No, I can't even. I'm not even supposed to tell you." So kids who are getting picked on don't always tell their mates.
No, it's scary, isn't it? It really is. Because you don't know where to turn. You just feel like you're sort of handcuffed, and you've just got to carry on doing what that person wants you to do. But obviously, that's the worst thing to do. You need to speak up about it. Yeah, but she couldn't. She was scared.
Yeah, because again, it's one of those things. I think Grange Hill did really well when they did bullying, because they would show, how kids were feeling, and how they couldn't let anyone else do anything about it when it was proper bullying. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about it in a bit later. Jill did get her comeuppance in the end. Alan offered to help Susie and give her extra judo lessons, as well as the club. And there was another trip that you got to go on to the school outdoor centre.
Yeah.
And Susie originally said she wasn't going to go. And Penny said to her, "I thought you weren't interested in this." And on the minibus, she told Penny that she'd just changed her mind and was interested. And after she'd said that, she turned and looked at Alan, gave him a bit of a knowing smile, so obviously, again. And as soon as they get there, Susie and Alan go off to do some extra judo practice, which that's not a euphemism for anything, by the way. They genuinely did go off and do some.
Was that when we were in the barn?
In the barn, yeah.
I love those scenes, because do you know what I remember about those scenes is the outfit, the costume. I hated the costume. I always remember I had to wear like corduroy trousers, and I was like beside myself, and I was so uncomfortable, and I hated it. And that like, I was like, oh God, that was what I remember more than anything else, really, are the costumes, because I was like quite self-conscious, I think, back in those days. Yeah. And, you know, and you're always sort of wondering what you're going to be put into and what costume you're going to wear. And I remember I got these, oh God, these corduroy trousers. I remember, I can feel them now. They were just so vile. And I had like a long sleeve top or something on. I was like, oh, but yeah, those were those really cute little scenes of me and in the barn. And wasn't he smoking as well?
He was, and there's a nice
Alan.
Yeah, there's a nice little scene though, because Alan says to Susie, you know, you're really good now at judo. You're probably better than Jill. And Susie's like, oh, that probably means we won't need to do any more lessons. And there's a little hints of sadness when she says it. But then she has a word with Alan about smoking and saying, you know, you don't need to be smoking. And Alan then stands up and pulls Susie up, and they look into each other's eyes.
Yeah, there's a moment.
And then we cut to the next scene.
And I was probably very thankful that we cut to the, because I was like very naive. I didn't want any of that nonsense.
And then we met Alan's dad. Tony Barton played Alan's dad. I love Tony Barton anyway, but I love Alan's dad at the same time, like, because he was so different, but he was just different to Susie's parents. He's so different, and there's a scene later on where he pretty much tells Susie's mum what he thinks of her. And you know, he was there because the outdoor centre needed work on it and stuff, so Susie convinced Alan to convince his dad to go and have a look.
Yeah.
And he said he'd get a proper quote on prices to try and fix it. And then the next day, Jill Harcourt approached Susie, and Alan said, oh, I'll go over with you. And she goes, no, I've got to do it on my own sometime. And she told her she wouldn't do any homework. Jill grabbed her, and that's when Susie got her own back, gave her what for. Jill got up, and so Susie did exactly the same again, and that's when Jill ran off. And this is the first proper physical contact other than judo or holding hands between Alan and Susie, because Susie kissed Alan on the cheek.
I know, I remember it well.
How did you feel about having to do that?
Oh my God, I had to do that so many times. So many times. Yeah. I think it was Colin Cant, our director. And because I'd never kissed a boy in my life. Right. And I was so nervous. And I just thought, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And it was really difficult for me. And I remember Colin going, no, come on, we got to do it again. No, let's just do it again. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I think I was kissing like everywhere except anywhere near his lips, you know. And I was trying to do this little peck. And Colin was going, no, let's just do another one. I was like, oh God.
Linda, are you sure you weren't doing it wrong on purpose?
Yeah, take 25. Take 25. Poor George was like, we've done enough, thank you very much. Leave me alone. Oh, it was such fun. And I love that scene because Tucker then says, flipping it, Alan, you're right, you're well in there.
You're well in there, fat man, he called him.
Yeah. And then she skips away and he's like baffled that, you know, Alan's got a kiss, and it's like,
brilliant.
I love that scene.
Brilliant. Yeah, that then moves us on to the next series 4, which went on here in 1981. If you can believe that. And like we said, we talked about this thing of they hadn't moved up a year, they were still third years. And Susie and Pamela Cartwright was there this time, and they were talking about Penny, and that Penny's mum said Penny won't be in school for a few weeks. And when Pamela asked her what was wrong, Susie didn't know, because I don't think Penny was in that series at all. To be honest, I think she probably left by then. And Susie by now was on the school council, and the big campaign was about students' rights and not being allowed in the school buildings at certain times. And it was one of these things where it just seemed to go on forever, the storyline. And as well as that, Susie was also writing articles for the school magazine and she went round to about the budget cuts. I don't know how Susie ever did any schoolwork. I'll be honest with you, because she had her finger in absolutely every single pie that she could.
That's typecasting for you, because that's who I am in real life. I've got every finger in every pie, and I'm just like juggling the plates, spinning those plates. Yeah. We are kindred spirits,
yeah,
Susie and I.
brilliant. Now, in that series 4 was the first time we'd met Booger Benson, who was like the big school bully. And there was a school disco, and at the end of the school disco, Alan persuaded Tucker to walk Pamela home so that Alan could walk Susie home. But as they were all about to leave, that's when Booger Benson turned up,
that's right,
and chased Tucker and beat him up. And it's quite a savage beating. Now, obviously, you weren't there for that bit, but for a TV program, a kids' TV program, to be showing something like that, and it is quite savage. It is quite, it's quite shocking for a kids' TV program to be showing something like that. It's quite a thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably the start of, we've obviously later on got Just Say No and the drugs storylines and everything. But that's what I think, Phil Redmond did so well, didn't he? He showed it as it was, which had never really been explored. And that, genuine, sort of honest, sort of, on the edge type programming, which with as you say, with young children, never been shown. But I think that's why, people of my age group, kids and a little bit older maybe, just absolutely love the show. And that's obviously why parents didn't want to watch it, because they didn't want their children subjected to that. But, that was real life, and that was the way that it was. And what was so brilliant, again, is that they always got their comeuppance. Behave like that. There are consequences to people's behaviour. But I remember that. Disco, because I think we did that for Blue Peter.
Well, that's another one. That's another one later on, the Blue Peter one.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Yeah. But I do remember again my outfit. So again, I think my particular outfit for that one was very nice. I remember it's like a red dress with like these sort of gold or silver bits on it.
That's the Blue Peter one. Yeah.
Oh, was that the Blue Peter one?
Blue Peter one, yeah.
Okay, right. What was I wearing in the other one then?
I think it was a lot more basic.
Okay.
Possibly some kind of jumpsuit, possibly, but I'm not 100% certain. That might have been Pamela wearing that. I'm not 100% certain on that one. Look, I'm a
bit radical for Susie.
Yeah, I'm a bloke. I don't really take fashion into account. I'll be honest. Now, there was a few things, like I said there, about finger in every pie. Just do some work. There was a thing about school PE kits being only one shop you could buy it from, and it turned out they had a markup over 100%. And then there was another one with school dinners. Why people weren't having school dinners with the not the right price or whatever. But we also found out that Penny Lewis, why she was off school, we found out round about this time that she was off school because she'd fallen off her pony attempting a triple bar jump, the sort of thing most inner city comprehensive school kids did.
Is that the reason? I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Now, Tucker had bet Tommy that Alan and Susie had started seeing each other, because they were spending more time together. They were still having the judo lessons, we found out. And Susie was annoyed if Alan didn't meet her at a time that he said he would, and things like that. So Tucker wrote Susie a love letter, if you remember that one. But it was from Alan, asking her to meet her in the cafe after school. And Susie went to Alan and said, I'll be there. And Alan didn't have a clue what Susie was going on about. Tommy and Tucker arranged to meet Alan in the same cafe as well. But in the meantime, Susie's mum found the letter. And obviously she wasn't going to be happy with that, was she? The way Susie's mum was. And so she told her she had to stay in her bedroom. And obviously Susie never went to the cafe, and she apologized to Alan the next day for not turning up. And again, Alan didn't have a clue, but she mentioned the letter. And then Alan realized that what had actually happened. And Alan, But that's lads for you again, you know.
Yeah, no, but it's mean of her mom, mean of her mom to
well
keep
mean
her
of it,
in.
mum. But in the end, Alan did ask Susie to go and meet her, and that's when Susie's mum spoke to Alan's dad about the relationship. He didn't see a problem with her, and she said, "Well, I do," and he goes, "Yeah, well, I imagine you would." And she said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You do strike me as the interference type."
Is that what he
then,
said?
Yeah, and then he said, "And if Susie's anything like you, I'll be telling my lad to keep well away from her." To be
Oh my goodness, she probably deserved that.
Were you surprised that Alan and Susie did have this relationship? Were you surprised when they came to you and said, "This is what we're going to do"?
I think it was just evolved, like you were saying. It was fed really early on, and then we just had like little scenes with that little, exchange of eye looking or whatever. Just I think it slowly developed, and then because George and I were really good friends anyway, from Italia Conti, because George was at school with me. He was slightly only, I think he was only 6 months older than me, George. But yeah, I think because we were such great friends, it was a heck of a lot easier. Because we could laugh about it and stuff, and maybe if it had been a stranger and I didn't really know them very well, then it might have been a bit more awkward. I mean, it was awkward enough, that kiss, but once I get over that, I was all right. But yeah, it was no, I don't think they ever sat us down and said, right, okay, this is what's going to happen. I think we used to just get the scripts, turn up for the reading, and then we just crack on, really.
There was no sort of really intimate scenes either, was there? There wasn't anything like that.
It was so innocent. It was a little peck on the cheek or holding hand. I don't even think I was saying holding hands. I remember there was a scene we were walking down a bit later on when I was a bit older. But yeah, there was just a lot of fun little, repartee between the two of us.
Yeah. Now, the end of term that year, there was a battle of the sexes competition going on. And there was all sorts of different events. And Susie was once again on the girls' quiz team. We only saw Susie answer one question and she didn't get it right. The girls ultimately lost the quiz, but there was just a hint of cheating from the lads. But the whole competition was declared a draw because there was all sorts of other things going on. Now, that moves us on to the one you've just been talking about earlier on, the Blue Peter. It was the 1981 Christmas special. Now, it was written by a Blue Peter competition winner, and this is actually the first episode I remember watching.
Okay.
I must have watched Grange Hill before this, but this is the first episode I actually remember watching.
Right.
And Susie and yourself looked very different in this episode. It was obviously filmed a fair amount of time after series 4 had been filmed. Everyone looked older. Your hair was different. Everything was different. And Susie and Alan were still an item. And we see them talking about what Alan's going to wear to. But they didn't actually say what it was. But she said, "I really hope you'll wear it." And, kind of alluded to something like, "I'll make it worth your while," and stuff like that. And she also reminded him to make sure he changed his socks.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
The next time we see Alan, he's wearing a suit because Susie had convinced him to wear it. And Pamela was like, "How did you get him to wear that?" And she said, "Well, I caught him at a weak moment when his resistance was low."
Oh, I remember that line. Oh, my God.
But that's when you were wearing the red dress that you were talking about.
That was the red. And then I had the big 80s hair.
Yeah.
I had lots of hair.
Yeah. And after that episode, we never saw Susie again until Tucker's Luck. Whose idea was it for you to leave Grange Hill? Was it your idea or was it there?
No, it was theirs, I think. Yeah, I think they wanted to fade out characters and pop up in Tucker's Luck. But yeah, I think I think all of us, didn't we? Didn't.
Well, there was a few.
Renee didn't stay on, did she?
No, there wasn't very many. Like there wasn't big storylines for any of the ones that did stay on, like Todd and George and Terry and were in it. I think Michelle was in it and Lindy, but there wasn't. They didn't have their own storylines. They were in scenes, but not really involved. Now, whenever I'm putting an episode of the podcast online, I'll quite often put picture clues online for people to try and guess who the next guest is going to be. And then whoever gets it right can then ask the following guest a question. So I've got a question here from someone called Ray Raymond. And Ray's question is, obviously, you were involved in a few storylines at your time at Grange Hill, but which one do you think is your favourite?
Gosh, yeah, there's lots, aren't there? It's either got to be the judo, which I love that, the bullying, because I learned so much and it was great fun, and actually physically having to throw Alex and everything was absolutely brilliant. But I had such a lovely time for the outdoor adventure as well with Ruth and, you know, as Penny and all the boys, and remembering the actual away from the set, you know, that was the most fun in the hotel and everything else, because as I said, it was my first time. So I would say the judo for the storyline, and then the outdoor adventure for the mucking around.
Brilliant.
having so much fun. Both of those.
And then obviously after Grange Hill, as I've just mentioned, and you mentioned it, you were in Tucker's Luck for a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
And you're obviously playing Susie. I'm guessing you didn't have to audition for that one.
No, I think they gave that one.
Right. Okay. And Susie, I think, was at college at this point.
Yeah. What was she doing at college? She was doing, do you know?
When I was looking, she had like a sort of a big like folder portfolio. I was guessing possibly art, design, something like that.
Yeah.
And the reason Susie was in it was because obviously Alan was still chasing after it and trying to get it back. And Susie had moved on with her life. You know, she was at college. She was obviously met new people. She had a new boyfriend called Steve.
Did I?
Yeah.
As traitor.
Yeah. And she basically said, you know, I've moved on and, you know, you're wasting your time type thing. And that was definitely the last time we saw Susie there. And the next thing, right, so I say this in every episode, I use IMDb for nearly all of my research, which I know isn't the most reliable source of information. Just that's me catchphrase there. It's got that you were in a TV movie called Good at Art.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
You played the character called Kim.
Kim, yes, that was a really lovely show, actually. Yeah, it was really brilliant. I played the lead in that, and I think it was directed by a chap called Fruit Dondi, who was I think he's really well known now, and he was, very well respected back then. And I think I was about 18 because I remember going, I think it was filmed up in Birmingham, and I think I had on my 18th birthday up there.
Right,
I think
wow.
Celebration, I'm sure it was, if I remember rightly. But yeah, it was a great storyline, and this young Asian boy at college fell in love with my character, and he did this amazing artwork of her, which I had for years and years and years, and unfortunately it got damaged, and I was so upset because it was such a brilliant thing to come home with, you know, like a little keepsake. But yeah, it was a really great storyline, and it was the fact that I think he didn't want his parents, again, it was to do with the racial inequality as well, which was quite sort of groundbreaking even back then, really. And this Asian boy falling in love with this white girl, and he called her Lolita and things, and it was just it was a great sort of nice exploration of these two characters. Good.
Brilliant. Like you say, you know, 1983 it went on air, and like you say, you know, that would have been a big groundbreaking thing because you still had, you know, in Grange Hill dealing with racism at that time, and there was things like My Beautiful Laundrette was coming out, and you know all these other things. National Front were obviously still quite prevalent as well. Like so, like it would have been a groundbreaking thing. Now, after that, then your IMDb, there's nothing else on there. But I believe were you a QVC presenter, or have I made that up?
Yeah, I've been until reasonably recently. Yeah, I was with QVC for 10 years.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. No, it was brilliant.
Is there anything else that I've missed out then?
Well, I did quite a lot of theatre
Oh,
actually.
right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I went into theatre, and I did a 6 month tour of Alice in Wonderland, so I'm playing Alice,
Brilliant.
which was just fantastic because I absolutely love that. It was
Yeah.
just, a perfect sort of character for me. But then it was like a rock musical.
Right. Oh,
Um,
wow. Yeah. Brilliant.
yeah, and we went all the way around the country, and I was dressed as, obviously Alice, and brilliant cast, and we just had again so much fun. Ended up in London, in Richmond, at the theatre there, which is a brilliant tour. I was in Gypsy in Swansea. We did rep down there. So yeah, I did bits and pieces, and then it started to dry out. I remember going to the BBC and we were doing like these sort of directors courses. They asked me to go and help the directors who were training at
Yeah.
Elstree, I think it was. And we were doing old EastEnders scenes and things.
Right.
So I started helping out with stuff like that. And then it just sort of, because I always looked a lot younger than I was, and I didn't look like the older parts. I thought I was sort of dropping in between everything, and I wasn't
Yeah.
seem to be getting the parts that I wanted. But yeah, and then I decided to go into live television. So
Brilliant.
yeah, QVC was absolutely fantastic. It was live presenting. It was like on the hook. You have to just do it. No matter what happens in the studio, you just plow on. But yeah, I was a lifestyle presenter, so I had some brilliant products, and it was just a lovely time of working back in TV. So yeah, it was all
Amazing.
good.
Yeah, brilliant. So I always ask this question, but for anyone that's very sort of closely pays attention to Grange Hill social media and stuff like that will know the answer to this question. What are you doing now?
Yes, I am running a charity called the Good Grief Trust. And obviously for the 40th anniversary of Grange Hill, we had a huge set of events, and it was a really exciting time. So 12 years ago, I lost my partner, Graham. And of course, for anyone who knows Grange Hill, Graham Theakston was one of our directors. And he came in. I always talk about him as this sort of young hotshot director who came into Grange Hill. He was a production assistant first, then he worked his way up to director. And he was so talented and so brilliant. And Phil loved him, I think, and everybody loved him. And yeah, he worked with us for a few years, and then he went off. And he went off into the world, and I remember writing to him for a job. I do have a couple of letters. It's really weird from him. I think he was doing the Bill or some different programs like that. And he wrote back to me and said, "Well, at the moment, Linda, I don't think I have anything available." And and I was like, "Oh, great, thanks very much." So I didn't get any jobs or anything. And then it was just so weird because it was, gosh, well, we were together for 8 years. So yeah, he died in 2014. And I'd come out of my marriage, and he had come out of his long-term relationship. And just so weirdly, I was living in Wandsworth and he was in Putney. I was in Wimbledon Village one day, and round the corner came Graham Theakston. And he just shouted at Linda, and I thought, oh my goodness, that's Graham Theakston. Because we all just remember he was from Yorkshire, but he had this incredible accent that it was just so, you would know him anywhere if he, said your name. And that was it. We went for lunch, started reminiscing about Grange Hill and what we were doing and stuff. And we became partners. So yeah, we were together for 8 years, really happy years, until sadly he was misdiagnosed, and he had a rare cancer called a rare soft tissue sarcoma, and they missed it sadly for a year. And he was writing scripts. Actually, he wanted to be a bit like Ian Fleming,
right?
And he wanted to write all these cool scripts and sit with a G&T in Barbados somewhere.
Yes.
He'd had enough of directing, and he had some brilliant work out there, but sadly, it wasn't to be. So he died in September, which is September the 2nd. So it's coming up to the anniversary. And then when he died, I just went a bit crazy. I didn't know where to turn for help. I was really struggling. Went off to the GP and my health professionals who were looking after Graham, and I just asked for help and support. But they didn't really know where to signpost me, and they had really limited knowledge about what was available, charities and support services. And then I realized, actually, I accidentally found a brilliant charity that was perfect for me. and it'd been in existence for many years, but the health professionals didn't know about it. And I thought, oh gosh, this is, really needs to be addressed, because there are many people, not only if you've lost a partner, a child, a sibling, a friend, whoever it is, needs to be signposted to the right charity and support service. And if the health professionals didn't have a resource available, then we needed to create one. Yeah. So that's what I did. Yeah. So 10 years ago this year, on September the 2nd, on Graham's anniversary, we launched the Good Grief Trust, and we're now the UK's leading bereavement network. So, yeah, very proud.
Yeah, you just said there it's 10 years since you launched it. So have you any plans for, I know it sounds like a weird thing to say, have you any plans to celebrate the 10-year anniversary, but is there anything?
It's a celebration. It's a celebration of coming together, and it's a celebration of the teams that I've had over the years, and the passion and the commitment and the support and the dedication of so many people. So yes, we have an event, and there are still tickets available. Not many, but if somebody would like to come and join us, we would absolutely welcome you. So on September the 9th, we are going to be in London at Westminster Abbey, and we have a big event. We've got a lovely evensong service first, which runs between 5 o'clock and just before 6. And then from 6 till 8, we're going to be in Poets Corner, which is a beautiful, beautiful space at the right by the altar at Westminster Abbey, for drinks and canapes and desserts and presentations. I'll be there with our lovely patron, Dame Penelope Wilton, who many of you know from Downton Abbey, obviously, and Afterlife, and so many programs she's been in over the years. And all our ambassadors, we've got, all our lovely celebrity ambassadors, and everybody will be there. So everybody's most welcome. And I'd love all the Grange Hill fans to be there, because, Todd is our patron. I'm hoping Todd's coming. Obviously, sadly, we lost George. So we'll be thinking about George. He was one of my best friends, George, obviously. Yeah. And when we lost him a few years ago, I was absolutely, and still am, devastated. So if we can come together to celebrate, that we're all helping each other, supporting each other, because since we did our, event for the 40th, I mean, those platforms, the Facebook pages, they've grown so much. Yeah. And, those events were so brilliant, and bringing people together. And we had people queuing around the block with their annuals and, having signatures. We brought all the cast and crew back. We even brought Phil Redmond and his wife back. And so many of us were there throughout all the years, not just my years. Yeah. So it'd be great if we can all get together at Westminster Abbey. So yes, please do get in touch. Hello at thegoodgrieftrust.org, and you can book your tickets now.
Brilliant. Now, I just need to sort a little bit more about the Good Grief Trust, because I don't know what to say, because obviously everyone deals with grief in their own way, and you're talking there about not knowing which way to turn. And I know for myself, when my dad passed, I was almost 23, so I'm like a young man at this time, but I was exactly and the way I dealt with it, and I know it was telling everyone that it had happened. Do you know what I mean? That was like, I was like the mouthpiece for the family, because obviously there wasn't anywhere where you could put it online for everyone to read it. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, but that was how I dealt with it, just making sure that everyone knew, everyone who was important to me dad and who my dad was important to knew about it. But it must be, and I don't know if this is the right term, it must be an incredibly rewarding thing for you to be doing that, and to helping people in that way, the people that don't know what to do and don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, it is really rewarding in that way. I mean, it opens your eyes every day, because the whole mission of the Good Grief Trust is to connect people with the right support at the right time, because we know that if you receive the support from day one, you know that there are other people who understand, other people who can support you. We can mitigate all those issues, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, self-harm for children, sadly suicide, all those really serious issues, mental and physical problems can be mitigated if we offer that early support. And it's really, really important. So we have a whole portfolio of initiatives that I've driven, and the team have helped me over the years to really raise awareness of those resources, vital resources that are available. So knowing that they are now in place. So alongside the database, we have over 1,000 charities, support services, we've got helplines, we have a national map of grief and bereavement cafes, we have a national map of walk and talk groups, because we know walking and talking out in the fresh air is so beneficial, you know. When you don't want to sit in a clinical environment and say, hello, my name is so-and-so and I've lost so-and-so, you know, you just getting out and about, chatting can be so cathartic and so important. So all those resources are under the umbrella. But what I didn't want is for anybody to have to accidentally find us, like I had to accidentally find, you know, and sadly, there's still a postcode lottery. But what I wanted to do was to create the database, but also a tangible resource. So over the years, we've developed the Good Grief Condolence and Signposting card. So that is now used as an essential part of the toolkit of many, many, over 100 NHS trusts now fund that as part of their resources that they offer their bereaved families from day one. End-of-life palliative care teams. We work with the Metropolitan Police. We work with funeral directors, crematoria, schools, universities, etc. So alongside the database, we have a card. But we also have plaques. So I created the Help and Hope plaque 3 years ago. So these are signposting tools, incredibly comprehensive, simple, inexpensive tools that are now installed on benches and seats up and down the UK. So you just literally scan the QR code, and wherever you are, if you happen to be walking the dog, if you're chatting with a friend, if you're out on your own, you know that there is help for you where you need it. Because what I wanted to do was to plug the gaps. So if somebody lived in, you know, the Outer Hebrides or down in Cornwall, you know, and you don't know about the Good Grief Trust, then at least you do, because you can find a bench near you that would have a plaque on it. So what we do is create these national initiatives that then grow and can grow and develop and stay there in the system. And during the pandemic, we worked very closely with the Department of Health to make sure that these cards were in the homes of all those people who couldn't go into the hospitals to say goodbye, you know, who were grieving at home, who couldn't even go to those funerals. So they part funded an initiative to send out 150,000 cards. They went to 250 trusts and 3,000 GP practices. Wow. So we worked very closely with the Department of Health, and 6 years later, we are now going back to them. I've just recently written to Andy Burnham and the new Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, Yvette Cooper, to encourage them to reinstate the funding and mandate this resource, because it is so crucial that we make sure that there's a consistent, standardized approach to helping people who are bereaved. And this is an incredibly easy, simple, cost-effective and proven way to do it. So so that's really what keeps me going. So that's like a long answer to your question. You know, it's knowing that there are tools out there that we've created from nothing. You know, that will really help people. And this year we've got National Grief Awareness Week, of course, and I can't divulge at the moment who we are working with, but we've got an incredibly exciting partner that we will be revealing probably end of September, something like that. Because this year there is a completely new set of legislation. So from September, schools are now going to be taught grief within their curriculum as mandatory, as statutory. So any child now who is at school going forward will hopefully have that language to help their peers, help their friends, understand what their parents are going through. So this is absolutely sort of really revolutionary for us as a society, because, you know, we all start as a child, obviously, and from that heart of the community where the school is, we will now have that ripple effect where we will be more equipped to be able to handle and navigate grief going forward as a society and as a culture. So for generations, it'll change, which is absolutely amazing. So we're really supportive of that as well. So there's a lot going on.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, I mean, long may it continue as well.
Thank you.
Because it is a fantastic job that you're doing. And I need to mention, you've also worked with Neville Southall as well, haven't you? I needed to
to do. Our ambassador, he's brilliant.
Being being an Everton supporter, he's like one of my all-time heroes, Neville Southall. So I need to get that in there as well.
Well, we've got a plaque at Everton as well. We've got one of our plaques at Everton. Up in Liverpool. Liverpool is one of our main areas of the country where we work. Actually, we've got plaques across the whole of the city centre, and the registrars there use our cards. So it's fabulous, and all because of Grange Hill. You think of it, Neil. The Good Grief Trust is born out of Grange Hill because Graham died, and that was where I met Graham. So if I hadn't been in Grange Hill, I would never have met Graham. How weird is that?
Okay, well, I nearly called you Susie again. Then, Linda, we are coming towards the end of the interview, and I've just got the same few questions I ask everyone at the end of the interview, and they're all Grange Hill related. So I forgot to ask you this one earlier on. So Grange Hill was very much in its infancy when you were on it, but were you aware of it? Were you aware of the programme at all?
No, I don't think I was. No. Oh, you mean because I came into it in the second?
Because I mean that the first series was only 9 episodes anyway, so it would have been easy for people to miss, I think. Anyway, once a week for 9 weeks, whereas it then became 2 episodes a week for 9 weeks. You would have had more chances.
I think when they came to Tiny Conti, I remember going through a whole raft of different interviews and callbacks and everything. And I think obviously when I knew I was auditioning for Grange Hill, I would have known what it was, but it wasn't the phenomenon that it became.
Yeah.
So it was just another TV program that I was auditioning for, really.
Yeah. Okay. Now, over the last few years, there's been talks in the press of a Grange Hill movie in the works. What do you think of the idea of a Grange Hill movie?
Do you know, I don't know what I think, to be honest. I think you'd have to see how they played it out, what, if obviously Phil was writing it, what he wanted for it.
Yeah.
I think there's so much love for Grange Hill, and there's so much nostalgia there, and it's part of all our, lives, our kids' lives, and, where we were as kids. So I think there would be a hunger for it and a thirst for it. And I think it would go down really well, no matter what it is, to be honest. Yeah. I think people will go and see it purely because of the nostalgia. But it would be lovely to be able to obviously embed all those characters somewhere. I'd love to be in it.
Well, I was going to ask, if you were asked, would we see a return of Susie Humphreys, I'm going to call her, because I know she moved on from Alan and took his look, but I imagine she would have been drawn back to him at some point.
I think so. I think there was that connection there. Yeah, she's either running a judo school or or an art club. Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay, so other than Susi McMahon, who was your favourite character in Grange Hill?
Oh. Gosh. I mean, I'm sure everyone says Tucker. Yeah. I mean, it's just, he's just and Benny as well. Obviously, Terry Sue Pat, his character was just so cute. I mean, for me, it's got to be the old school. It's got to be my year, always my year. I think Todd's character is just iconic, isn't it? I just loved his, I've watched a few recently, and obviously they pop up on Facebook, and he just had a way with him, Tucker just had that twinkle, and he just nailed it, really. Every scene. I just think he was brilliant. But there were so many characters, all of them, really. I loved all of them.
I do think Tucker was perfectly cast, to be honest. Like you can't like you see programs and you think, I could imagine someone else playing that character. You can't see anyone else playing Tucker Jenkins at all. It's just not possible. Like, so and if you couldn't have played Susie, which other character would you like to have played?
Oh, well, Trisha was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone wanted, to be that cocky, cocky Cockney, really, of Trisha, because she had the one-liners and she got back at everyone. She wasn't taking any nonsense at all.
No.
So I think Trisha Yates would have been cool to play. Yeah. But also, I would have loved to play maybe Kathy, because she got to sing that brilliant song, The Black Widow.
Yeah. Oh wow.
How fantastic it was that scene. She had the best voice. I can't get hold of Lindy. So, Lindy, if you're anywhere near and you're listening, get in touch because, yeah, we'd love to get in touch with Lindy again. But yeah, I chat to Michelle all the time. You know, we're really good friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that Black Widow was fabulous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, so the final question then, Linda, is why do you think there is still such affection for Grange Hill?
Oh, I just think it was so new. And I think us as kids at that age had never seen anything like that before. I think it was just what we needed and what kids needed at that time, the reality of it, something that we all need. We all need to connect with people that we resonate with. I think it helps us as human beings. If you find someone who, well, same thing as I'm doing for the Good Grief Trust, if you find other people who have been through something and you can connect with them, you don't feel so alone, right?
Yeah.
So you don't feel as though you're by yourself. You don't feel as though your experience is unique. You are connected with other people who get it and who understand. And I think that's what we did. We portrayed those different characters in different scenes, and kids at home thought, oh my God, yeah, that's me. I'm being bullied. Or, yeah, no, that's me. And I've got that, you know, that sort of problem or issue or whatever it was. Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was so new, so groundbreaking, so pioneering, but so real. And the characters were so, you know, approachable, lovable, and everything else. And I think, and also the longevity. I think because it lasted so long, then it's embedded in you, isn't it? For so many years, it wasn't just there and gone. It was part of our lives.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah,
definitely. Well, Linda, thank you so much for coming on. Eventually. No, that's harsh on me.
No, it's just been a nightmare to try and find the time to do it.
And I honestly massively grateful.
It's been a joy, really, really lovely reminiscing. And thank you to you, Neil, for keeping all this alive, because I love listening to these podcasts and I love listening to other characters and their stories, because you learn so much, because you don't really know how their life was before Grange Hill. You don't really know what else they've done since. So I think this is a brilliant way of keeping in touch with everyone, because, you know, we can't all see each other face to face. So it's lovely that you're doing this. So thank you to you.
Oh, no, thank you so much. And it has been brilliant speaking to you about, you know, your experiences and before and after, and obviously what you're doing now with the Good Grief Trust, which is obviously so important as well. So thank you once again. And to anyone that's listening, I'll speak to you next time. Cheers. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.